Hey, you guys. So, I wanted to come on here and talk to you about two different things really quick. The first one, oh my goodness, I had to incorporate this one into the video. I wanted to do a review of one of the episodes I watched of a Tyler Perry show, The Haves and the Have-Nots. And a lot of you may already be familiar with the show, some of you probably aren't, but I wanted to see what the hype was about it that kind of surrounds the show and why people tune into it so routinely. So I'm going to go ahead and start off first by giving you a brief synopsis of the show and what it entails for those who may not be aware and haven't watched the show. So, according to the OWN network description, The Haves and the Have-Nots is a show about different families of different socioeconomic statuses. You have the Cryer family and you have the Harrington families, which are deemed the haves. I'm guessing they dubbed them these monikers as a means to say they have wealth and social status. That's just a guess. And then you have the have nots, which consists of the young family who are of a lower socioeconomic status. And also, side note, remember these haves and have nots throughout my commentary because they're going to be key in understanding the dynamics of the dysfunctions. So the young family is matriarchal. It's headed by Hannah. She's a single mother. Apparently, in a majority of Tyler's films, he thinks black parents are always supposed to be perpetually single and dysfunctional, but I'll get into that more later. And Hannah, she works or worked as a maid for the Cryer family. She's good friends with Catherine Cryer, who is the somewhat maternal presence in the higher social status setting. And the reason why I say somewhat is because after watching that episode, you guys, I, I don't know. Anyways, Catherine and Hannah are good friends. So the casting itself has multiple different races. You have both black and white families. And I guess the thing that's supposed to tie them all together is their similarities in their dysfunctional and degenerate ways, which again, it's Tyler Perry we're talking about, so use your imagination. You also have a young black gentleman on here. I believe that he is also a part of the Haves. He's on the Harrington side, who goes by the name of Jeffrey Harrington, who is same gender loving, but even in this realm, Tyler seems to have given some degree of broken character flaws to this character. So now that you guys have some backstory of some of the who some of the characters are, I want to go ahead and give my review of the show that I watched. Now, I didn't mention everyone, but that's okay because I'm just going based off the characters that I immediately remembered from this episode that I saw. So it was season 7, episode 6, titled Mr. Jim. So where do we begin here? Okay. So first we start with I think his name is Jim Cryer. He's in the hospital after his son tried to take his life because of the psychotropic induced addiction he has, and because I assume he may be dealing with some form of psychosis. I'm not entirely sure. You guys let me know in the comments section if he's dealing with some form of psychosis, if that's the case or not. But Jim is in the hospital. Hannah and her daughter Candace are both in the hospital room with him. They are begging him to not shoot Hannah's son, Benny, who is locked away by one of Jim's men because Candace owes Jim a substantially large amount of money, like in the millions. So Jim is holding Benny for collateral and threatening to end his life if Candace doesn't give Jim back his money. Candace, through means of provocative and seductive behavior, managed to extort this money from Jim and he wants it back. So, after the repetitious dialogue, and you guys, I do mean repetitiveness, I mean, I'm very serious. The thing about it is, half of the dialogue throughout the entire show was literally the characters saying the same thing back and forth to each other. For example, okay, so Jim says, "Where's my money, Hannah?" Hannah says, "Candace is giving you back that money. I'm going to call her." Jim says, "Hannah, where's my money?" Hannah says, "I'm going to call. I'm going to call her, Jim. I'm going to call her." So it's literally no progress is being made. So I could kind of tell immediately from the show at its initial beginning, like the inception of the show, that this is literally how the dialogue is going to be. It's going to be this repetitious back and forth where the characters are saying one thing to each other, then they're basically repeating back what they just said to each other in this same tired manner. So whenever I saw that and throughout the entirety of the show, it's just kind of like, eh. The part that I took issue with is the fact that this white man is asserting his dominance over this black woman, and she is so desperately begging to save her son's life. And don't get me wrong, I understand doing anything to save your child's life, but my goodness, does it really mean that you have to compromise and sacrifice your integrity to do so? I mean, that scene within this episode was so contemptuous and substandard that it felt like I myself was set back 200 years. I mean, the way that this white man was saying to this black woman to refer to him as Mr. Jim and say please, you guys, oh my gosh. I really just can't on that. And I almost had to stop watching at this point. So after this back and forth and incessant reiteration of words, I remember that there was a scene where I think David Harrington, which that's the halves, a black, there was a scene where I think David Harrington was growing increasingly impatient with his wife. I'm trying to think. Veronica Harrington. She makes life abundantly difficult for him whenever the opportunity presents itself. I can tell that she's one of those types. She represents the disgruntled, angry, mad black woman who is capable of enacting revenge through her cunning skills, and she's really clever with her legal knowledge. And this is actually what keeps her from getting in trouble because she is a judge, to my understanding, on that show. She's basically all of these adjectives wrapped into a calm, composed, and unruffled appearance. And her body language, I have to admit, is immaculate. She does not really show signs of hesitation and readily stares into situations that would be otherwise considered dangerous to anyone else, but she clearly is able to call a person's bluff and can snuff out if someone is serious. And again, this is just my observation from this one episode. I want to state that I don't know if this is how these characters are in terms of their infrastructure, but anyways, Veronica is at David's mansion and she's acting belligerently while antagonizing him. He can't do anything because she's not directly on his property, and of course, after their repetitious spat, Jeffrey Harrington, I think that he is the same gender loving gentleman. He comes down in an effort to calm his father and tells him to go back inside to try to make sure if there's any further hostility that would come as a result of their spat, that they kind of nip it in the bud. Veronica then turns her attention to her son Jeffrey and starts to berate and belittle him. And I mean, you guys, this is what I'm talking about. Already we have a multitude of different issues and problems within our community, and then you have these representations and depictions of us and these portrayals that don't show us in the best light. And this is why in my video that I had done with Tyler Perry previously, I stated that he's not above reproach, because when you have shows like this that make us appear to be broken beyond repair, it's not only reprehensible, but we have to constantly fight like 10 times harder to try and get control of the narrative that we are not all like this. And unfortunately, these representations and portrayals are what garners the most attention. And again, since black people are viewed as a monolith by other races of people, this is how we all are seen. Now, what I want to do, just to kind of stay on track, I do want to focus a little bit on Jeffrey's character for a moment. He seems to be that type that kind of sulks. He has a body language about himself that says victim and kind of broken in terms of his decision making capabilities. He, I guess, tries to act as a peacemaker for his father, not even realizing that he's just like his father when it comes to dysfunction. You were, and this is speaking from David's perspective, he's basically with a woman who's not accepting of her son and is deranged with a nice smile, and then this mentality appears to have manifested in Jeffrey with his inability to have proper discernment. And he in I think, was it Maryland? Maryland? No, Madison. Sorry. Sorry, Madison. Okay, yeah, it was Madison. I'm sorry, you guys. I knew the white guy was named after a girl, so I was just trying to remember. But there was a scene where Madison strips down to nothing, and it's just like, oh gosh, here we go. And it's really just more of the same. Typical Tyler Perry, take your clothes off, have moments of confusion, and then resentment an hour later. And it's just like at some point you wonder if you'll ever get a respite from this debilitating screenwriting. So enough with that. I can't even. I mean, I wish I could have reviewed it more, but honestly, you guys, that's just what I got from it. It was terrible because of the constant and relentless writing. I mean, I know Tyler said he writes all of his shows, and let me tell you, it shows, and we see you. Take it how you want. So, on that note, we are now going to address the controversy going on right now with One United Bank. So, I have actually been taking note. I've been noticing that there's been an upsurge of black people upset on social media at the new credit card offered from them. And as someone who has a membership through One United Bank, I have to actually say that I am disappointed myself. I understand that banking black is important, and our objective is to try and build wealth by reinvesting back into our community. But this idea of putting Harriet Tubman on a credit card while simultaneously having her do the Wakanda pose, that was exceedingly disingenuous. And I can understand why black people would be upset at this. I think it probably wouldn't have been an issue if maybe Harriet Tubman was placed on there like a normal picture, just like a regular picture with her not doing anything. Or even if they wanted to just go with the Black Panther theme, maybe they could have just used T'Challa doing the Wakanda pose, but to take a highly respected historical black figure and pair it with a fictional movie franchise, it actually does a disservice. When we look at the visual aesthetics of this, understand that Harriet Tubman would not have agreed with this stance, and I want to tell you why. If we look at the movie Black Panther, you'll see that T'Challa was the one doing the Wakanda pose. So Harriet Tubman was more of a revolutionary who cared deeply for her people, but also she did things to eliminate any threats or efforts to interrupt her objectives. This, in actuality, would make her more similar to the villain Killmonger, who possessed a similar character trait. So you guys have to understand that even the pose that she is portrayed doing would not be accurate if she was in that movie. Harriet Tubman was about liberating her people and to ensure that they wouldn't be subject to the cruel torture and mistreatment, and wanted to help other black people who were under the same circumstances. And the thing about it is, Killmonger, he wanted to actually help other black people around the world who were dealing with injustices. And this is my opinion on why this depiction is not only discourteous but also highly inaccurate. I also saw comments where people were talking about that the bank is very similar to other banks that are not black owned. They talk about being ripped off, and some people talked about how they deposited money into an account and never got it back. Now, I don't want to be disingenuous to anyone. I don't want to diminish anyone's experiences if they've had these experiences with this bank, because that is something that's serious. I can say that I haven't experienced this. I have not experienced this, but I do want to say one thing, you guys, is that black people don't have any real power in this society. We don't have a monopoly anywhere in major industries. So with this bank, they may have to work with a larger society, but white supremacy, you have to understand, it's a global concept. It's inescapable. So at some point or another, even if you start your own business, you can say in one instance you won't ever work with a white person, but there's going to come a point where you'll eventually have to work with them. And this may be in the form of creating sponsorships, getting merchandise for a store. It may even be the initial investment of the creation for your business. But you can't outrun this structural system. It's in place for a reason. And I think that the sooner we realize that, the sooner that we can get rid of this ideology of avoiding the larger society altogether. Now, when I say that, do I wish that we could do all of this on our own without their help at all? Of course. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world like that right now. And I know our businesses aren't perfect. And to a certain extent, it's not 100% black in some areas. But we have to be able to start somewhere. So don't judge prematurely. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, you guys, with all of that being said, I do want to hear your opinions and thoughts on this. Make sure you guys get in the comment section and weigh in below, and just, let me know your opinion on all of this. And I do want to thank you guys so much for your support, so far, with all of the videos and content that I've been creating. I've been seeing, a lot of positive feedback, and I've been able to kind of help, get people to engage in critical thinking. So that's my objective. So with that being said, again, thank you guys so much for your support. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.